In some previous videos, I talked about how to pair Bluetooth health devices to your GrandCare touchscreen. And by that I mean blood pressure, cuff, or a weight scale, and so on. And I just wanted to show you some next steps. It's not really enough just to have the device paired to the system. Once you do have it paired to the system, what then? Well, let's open up the Care menu on Charlie's demo system and look at the wellness area in the Care menu. And you can see that we've got some devices that have been paired with Charlie's system for quite some time. And down here below, we have some graphs and charts. And I just want to show you this because once you have this device paired to the GrandCare system and it starts to be used perhaps on a daily basis, then you might want to come in here and look and see what's GrandCare actually doing with these readings. So as an example, let's look at Charlie's blood pressure in October of this year. So you can see these dark lines, these dark columns in the graph are showing actual readings that Charlie took on the day indicated. And these white ones, these light colored ones, are actually interpolated readings. And by interpolated, I mean that GrandCare has taken a guess at what those readings might have been based on the prior readings and the subsequent readings, so that it helps you sort of visualize the trend of Charlie's blood pressure. And you can see the systolic and you can see his systolic and diastolic blood pressure and so on. And if I want rather see the charts, I can click this button here in the corner to see the chart. There it is. And I'll go back to the graph. So this briefly is where you can come and look at these readings as they're being recorded over time. But there's more that we can do, and that involves the creation of rules. And you can see Charlie has a few rules here, but I think it's best if we go instead at this point to my other demo system and open the Care menu for it and open up the wellness area. And you can see this particular demo unit has one health device paired to it, a blood pressure cuff. And here's the chart for those readings. Just a few readings back in October, so it's pretty new. But here, let's go to the Add New Rule button to start talking about what can GrandCare do with the knowledge that it's acquiring through these health devices. So I'm going to click Add New Rule. Now there's many choices here for creating this rule. It's basically an if-then statement. So if the following condition occurs, then here's what I want you to do. So for example, I could say if the systolic blood pressure is greater than, less than, increases, decreases, and so on. So I'll say if it's greater than, oh, I don't know, yeah, sure, 120, then what I want GrandCare to do is send a text message to, maybe not all caregivers, I'll have it send a text message to me. And then I can include an optional explanation if I'd like. And before I click the Finish button, I just want to mention that, again, because we are looking at the GrandCare development environments and not a production server, we'll sometimes see artifacts of development going on, such as new features and other things that we're working on that are not finished and are not part of the officially released GrandCare product. And so when we see those things, I'm going to point them out just so that no one's confused. This dashboard priority interface here down at the bottom is one of those, so we're going to skip that and just click Finish instead. So here's our rule. just as we created it in the previous dialogue. And if I'd like to change it, I could go back and edit this rule with this little button here, or I could delete it entirely with this little button. And if for some reason I'd like to make this rule inactive, that is, not delete it, but have it not execute, I could uncheck this little box here to make it inactive for a time, and then maybe check it again in the future when I want it to continue on working. That is the basics of rules in the wellness world here of GrandCare. But I could do more. I could maybe add a rule to say that if the blood pressure reading is not taken between, let's say, 6 a.m. and noon, then what I want you to do is send an email to me. And I can provide that optional explanation if I'd like, but as the words indicate, it is optional, so I don't have to if I don't want to. So I think I'll skip it this time and just click Finish to my new rule. My second rule is right here, and it says that if the blood pressure reading is not taken in the morning between 6 a.m. and noon, then send an email to me to let me know. Now this is handy because you want people to remember to take their reading, and more to the point is if they're forgetting to do it, then somebody might need to know about that. Other things to look at here. In addition to just looking at the charts and graphs with these icons that appear next to these devices, we could also use the button up at the top to look at just the most recent readings. And they just show them to me there. There's the blood pressure cuff on 10/29. Now, here's something that might make things easier in terms of your wellness rules, and I'll show that to you now. Up here in the health options icon, this little gear icon in the corner, I can see a number of things that I might want to change or not. My default display is chart. Perhaps I'd like by default to show the graph instead. I could choose that here. My weight unit is in pounds, or maybe I'd like it better in stones, whatever it is that I want. And some other options here that you can see, but I think that there's a couple that are especially interesting, and that is the option to show deleted readings. That is, readings that were taken and that GrandCare put up on the screen to acknowledge or delete, and someone actually touched the delete button to get rid of that reading. Now, we don't forget those readings, we just don't show them then by default. So if you check yes for show deleted readings, it will show them instead of hide them. And the other thing that I think is of interest here is that interpolation of readings, that sort of inferring of what a reading would have been had it actually been taken that day, based on the readings from the previous days and the subsequent days, to help you spot the trends in these readings. Right now this is set to yes, but if I don't like that, I could easily uncheck it to have it not do that. But here's what I really wanted to show you here in this section. It's the vital reading limits. Now here's one centralized place where I might come and put in the readings that I think are going to be low or high, or maybe extreme highs, so that I can make rules based on these values. So maybe I would say that the systolic is high at 160 and is extremely high at 175, and the diastolic is high at 90 and is extremely high at 100. And I could say that the low values would be, I don't know, 95 and maybe 80. And if I were to do this for my diastolic and systolic measurements. Let's see what these might be. Now, once I save these options for my systolic and diastolic, I then have some other things that I might be able to do in my rule making. Let's go ahead and add a new rule and see what options we have available to us now. So if any vital reading is out of limits or out of extremes, I'll just say out of limits, then I want you to maybe call the cell phone of me. And there's my new rule. That if any of my vital readings are out of limits, any of them, not just blood pressure, but any that I might have. And so that's how that kind of rule works. And so there are many other things that I might say about our wellness operations and especially our vital reading limits. But this really is an advanced topic that I think I'm going to leave it at that for now. And if you have further questions about how that works, you're just going to have to let us know that you're interested in that subject, and we will make sure that we get you all the information that you might need. But the central idea here is that those vital limits are one centralized place where you can change those values if they need to change over time, and then all your rules that are based on them will operate with those new values. So it's a matter of convenience, especially for people with multiple health devices like Charlie. And that's about it for our wellness rules.